to start a relatively large project, which has already kind of started around me here. And that is going to be a mini Jeep of sorts. Pretty much a go-kart with a body. And we're going to do that by stealing everything that's good off this horrific go-kart frame, which I already started doing last night by pulling the axle out of it and pull all the steering components out of it except the steering wheel is the last thing I need off this husk of what I believe is probably the worst go-kart I've ever seen in my life. So, to start off with the good, one of the main reasons I bought this go-kart in particular is I knew I could get it cheap, and it had 5 lug hubs on it already with this live axle setup. This is the size tires I'm going to use too. This is 23-inch tires, and those are old Sears rims. There's a probably 5 on 4.5-inch bolt pattern. I have another set of these wheels that will throw in the front, which is the other reason why I bought this thing, because it already had a complete steering setup and 5 lug hubs as well. And the last two things I can use out of this is an 8 horsepower Briggs. These are pretty decent motors. Didn't have spark, cleaned up the flywheel last night, shot some ether in it, fired right off. So that could be used. I probably will use it, at least to start. I wish it had an electric start. That's something I want to do in this build eventually, but it does have the recoil start, just needs to be rebuilt. Then we've got a Comet torque converter, which is worth something even if this motor's junk, because with an 8 horsepower, it should be a bigger input shaft so I can use a larger motor. And then we also have this jack shaft, which I probably won't need, I don't know. But in case I do, I have it. So that's all the pieces for this build. Should be relatively simple, but I've never built a go-kart before. All right, well, we cut out 2 frame rails, 76 inches long, 1.5 by 1.5 by 8. And then we knocked out 2 pillow block bearing off the axle mounts, which these are going to sit in here like that and like that. Bam. So I went ahead, tacked on the pieces like you saw. Just got the axle bolts in there, lined up nicely. So we have a rear axle sitting in this thing bolted down snugly. All right, well, we ran into our first issue here, and that is the spindle has a crap ton of, that would be camber. So that's not going to work. I don't want nearly that much camber. And to change it means we need to get rid of this big glob of weld, which really sucks. We're also going to cut this thing off, start fresh with a new one. So I think I can cut this thing off around here, clean it up, clean all this gunk off, and re-weld it back on this guy and be good. This is a solid piece of stock, so I definitely don't want to lose that. At least I think it's a solid piece of stock. So we're going to go ahead and try that. So to start, I think we'll throw it in the bandsaw and just get it apart and then go about cleaning it up. So let's see how that goes. All right, well, I ended up getting sick for like a week, and I'm finally back out here working in the garage. And the only thing I've really gotten done since then was I figured out how to cut apart these spindles, I guess you would call them. So what I do, I've already done one, getting ready to do the second one. I cut the steering component off because that's janky, and then I pull the whole hub apart, tape this up, and then I throw it in the saw, my Evolution chop saw. Try and get it as straight as possible. And then I cut it off. And then with this one, I think I went back and cut a second time closer to here. And then you can also throw it in a portable bandsaw or vertical bandsaw. Trim it down, grind it off. Not really a fun process, but it works, and it's a lot better than spending like $150 on new parties. So. Just like that. So we're kind of in a dark corner of the garage, but got the first spindle tacked back on, or tacked back together. Kind of sort of eyeballing it, but using the magnets. Looks like the spacing looks pretty similar. That's good. So just use the drill press vise, 3 magnets. Hope that's good enough. I've got them both welded up. They still seem pretty straight. I'm not really doing any welding lately. I'm happy enough with those welds. I think I will do some sort of gusset plate though. So I'm thinking some sort of plate that grabs all 3 sides here and then grabs the semicircle. I don't know how I'm gonna do it without cutting into my bearing or my seal area. So I will reassemble one of the hubs and see how much room I have, I guess, before I go ahead and do any more welding. Well, I've got the hub slid back on here and I really don't have that much more space. So I think that's gonna be, I think that one weld is gonna have to be good enough. If it breaks, then maybe we'll get a different hub with a little bit more length at the end so I can do something a little more substantial. All right, got the grass cleaned up. Time to build us a front axle. Alrighty, we got a front axle built. So we cut out some 3/16, slot and tabbed these kingpins. I don't know, I guess you would call them a kingpin. Cut an axle, did some math, so hopefully the tire widths end up the same. We'll see. Also went ahead and threw a 10-degree caster at it. The frame's upside down now, so when it's flipped, it'll be a positive caster because it'll be back towards the driver. So, I don't know. We'll see if this works. All right, well, we have a rolling chassis. So those are 23-inch tires off of a Cub Cadet on the front. Those, I think, are 23-inch tires off of a Sears lawnmower. It's kind of the size I wanted. I want this thing to look like it has bigger tires on it. Might cause some drivability issues with gearing wise, but we can always change that out. So now I also realized that I put the camber the wrong direction. I want it facing backwards, and somehow in my brain I messed that up with it being upside down. So we will have to fix that. At least I think I got it wrong. Now I'm wondering if I should start on getting the motor placed, get the steering figured out and everything, or do I get the body built and see how everything works out? I've got kind of a weird way that I'm going to build at least the front end. The back end should be pretty simple, but the front, I will be using some questionable parts to start with. So I think I will start with that. Get the body done, or started at least, kind of figure out how everything's going to look and sit. Then we'll move on to the rear axle, front axle, that sort of thing. So, this set of rear fenders and this hood off that Cub Cadet 106 is what's going to become our hood and fenders for our mini Jeep. Now the hood is going to get cut, and I'll probably just use the sides and the bend and then fill in the middle with a flat sheet. And the fenders, we're going to cut these pieces off and they'll be fenders. I don't know if it's going to work out super well like I think it is, but we're going to give it a shot because it would result in a lot less metal forming, and I don't have any metal forming tools for sheet metal, so the least bit of that we have to do, the better. I got the fender marked out here where I'm going to try cutting it. The more I look at these fenders, the more I think they're going to be tough to make it look good, but we'll give it a shot. We're going to cut down this right side here. Eventually this will get trimmed off above that tail light housing and round it up, look nice. Coming around back here, we're going to cut all the way down here. This will end up butting into the side of the body. And then this step will still probably remain. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So I'm getting low on cutoff wheels, so we're using the old Harbor Freight brand. So that comes with wearing a face shield because I don't want to die. All right, well, bam, there's our 2 fenders. I'm decent with a cutoff wheel, so I got them straight, but they're definitely not perfect. who knows if we'll even use these. So now I guess I'm going to somehow mock them up on the frame and then figure out the hood. All right, well, we got the tractor hood up here now. Got it marked out, so I'm going to cut along here. Try and use as much of this hood as possible, but I don't want it to, this hood goes like this. I want my hood to be straight, and I don't want these, so we're just going to use the edges. And we might not even use all the edges, actually, we'll see. So I'm going to start cutting. All right, well, small progress. We got the sides of the hood cut. I mean, it's kind of sitting patched together. So the next thing we got to do is we got to cut that inner piece, like the main hood flat sheet. We're going to cut it out in 14 gauge, which is a hair thinner than what this sheet metal is made out of, but it's what I have, so we're going to make it work. Gonna have to do some thinking first though, because the hood width will actually set the width of the body. It'll kind of set a lot of factors in stone. It'll set how much our fenders cover our tires, whether our tires clear the fenders during steering, all kinds of things will be dependent on that hood width. So. Shoo, we got a hood. It looks so cute. It's like the first thing that actually looks Jeep. It looks like a Willys flat fender hood. And seeing it so small is really kind of funny. So we kind of got it loosely sitting there. Obviously, when I actually build the grill and stuff, it will be like even with the fenders. Inside of the fenders, I mean. But yeah, looks pretty good. I think the proportions are all right. I mean, I'm kind of constrained by the length of the hood because it's as long of a hood as I have. But it'll scoop back a little bit. And that should do us pretty good, I think. So now the next thing, which is going to take a considerable amount of time probably, is to design and cut the grill. Yeah. Alrighty, I think we finally got a grill that looks somewhat right. We'll see. It's running through its dry run now. But, I don't know. We'll see how it looks in the end, I guess. Bam! It's got a grill sitting in it. So I've got it sitting just between the frame rails with those magnets. And in the end, the grill's going to come up to take up that space. And it'll probably come up a little bit more to get the hood above the side of the fenders here. Also going to go ahead and move the grill back, which is going to be a little bit weird due to the wheel spacing and stuff. But that's what I got to do for these fenders to be able to clear. So that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, it's starting to look really cool. I think it's getting me excited. Definitely turned out to look like a Willys. The fenders still throw it off a little bit, but you know, I'm happy. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more adjusting, I guess, and go from there. So I've done a little bit more work here. Got the grill sitting a little bit better. It's still going to come up, which will bring the hood up, which will bring the fenders up. We also got this fender sitting in place. And we've begun the body design process here. Got a piece of cardboard set in there. The toughest part, I think, is going to be the cowl right here, because that needs to follow the hood. And I mean, I could take a section out of the hood, but I really like the length of the hood. I think it's proportional, so I don't really want to do that, but Alrighty, another evening working on the Jeep here. Been kind of cracking away at it for a few hours. Haven't really stopped to take any video, but probably mostly looks the same, except for the fact that a lot of things are kind of in place how they're gonna be. We've got that all T thing's temporary. That's just to hold the hood up for now. So I ended up just tacking that cross member in. I think that will eventually be a bolted cross member. The grill will be welded to that. I think this is gonna be, I don't know how it's gonna be. I'm kind of thinking one piece front end right now, so it flips up. Make working on it really easily. Got the hood tacked on, which depending on how I do it, that's not gonna be a final thing. This is all just kind of temporary, getting everything placed so I can start to design the rest of the body. So this is all kind of constrained now. Everything's tacked in place. Also cut off the bottom of the fenders. I think in the end, once I build the tub, I will have little triangle pieces, flat pieces, like a flat fender would have. And then the big thing of the night was I built the cowl, which I was kind of worried about doing, but worked really well. I cut a big rectangle out, then cut these, so these have like a 1x1 radius on them. And I'll show you, put a clip in of how I bent these with the torch. Worked out pretty good. Needs a little bit of shrinking work, but the biggest challenge I'm gonna tackle the next time I work on this is I need these pieces to actually shoot out like this to give me the proper width of the body. So on a normal Willys Jeep, the cowl and the front part of the tub right here shoots way out to get the body width almost to the width of the fenders. I don't think we're gonna quite do that. I think we'll shoot it out, get it about, I don't know, close, but definitely not as far as these fenders. These fenders stick out really far, and we may end up cutting these down to make it even in the future. I don't know. But figuring out how to widen this cowl, I think, is gonna be tough. I think it'll involve taking a triangle out of that and kicking it out, filling it in. That's not tonight's problem, but that's the first part of our tub, which is exciting. All right, wanted to hop in here at the end real quick. So you just watched the whole first part of this Jeep build. And as you can probably tell by this picture here, this turns into way more monster of a project than I ever intended. And it's gonna become a lot more than just a go-kart. So, please consider subscribing and coming back to watch part 2, where we'll build the rest of the tub for this thing and make some major changes to what I use for the drivetrain. This is by far the biggest project I've ever done on this channel, so bear with me on the ill planning and random changes throughout. So